Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here. So today we're doing a deep dive, one that's really aimed right at you. You know, the person who's decided that good enough just isn't going to cut it for English proficiency. We're talking C2,
Exactly. The absolute
the
zenith.
very top level.
That's right. And our mission today, well, it's pretty straightforward. We want to give you the ultimate rigorous guide to C2 test preparation, specifically for the Certificate of Proficiency in English, the CPE.
Right. For anyone aiming for that absolute peak performance in English.
And, the C2 journey, it's fundamentally different. It's not just another step up from B2 or even C1.
It really isn't, is it?
Yeah.
The stakes feel, well, they feel incredibly high.
They are. C2 certification isn't just about being fluent, though fluency is obviously part of it.
No, it's more. It's about having language skills that are, like you said, almost indistinguishable from a highly educated native speaker.
Precisely. And that doesn't just open doors, like a B2 or C1 might.
No, it feels like it carves out entirely new paths.
That's a great way to put it. Paths in careers, academia, where that exceptional linguistic skill isn't just helpful, it's essential.
It really sets you apart on a global stage.
Instantly.
So that phrase you used, almost native, let's unpack that. What does it actually look like in practice?
Okay, good question. In practice, it means you can say, pick up a really complex science journal article.
Something dense.
Oh yeah, really dense. And you can read it, understand the nuances, the arguments without constantly stopping or feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
Or you're listening to, maybe, a subtle political debate on the radio. Lots of implied meaning, maybe some sarcasm or irony.
The tricky stuff.
Exactly. The stuff that relies on cultural subtext or unspoken assumptions. A C2 user gets all of that pretty much immediately.
Without hesitation.
Without hesitation. And then this is crucial. You can turn around and articulate your own complex thoughts on those same topics.
With that same level of precision.
Incredible precision, yeah. And complete grammatical control. You're not just getting by, you're truly engaging with complex ideas at the highest level.
Okay, so let's pin this down within the framework everyone knows. C2 is the top of the Common European Framework, the CEFR. We know that.
The highest point, yes. The CPE exam certifies this level.
But what truly defines it? If someone listening is already at C1, which is already really advanced.
The very good level, C1.
Right. So how does C2 actually separate itself? What's the real difference?
It genuinely is the zenith, as you said, the core skill. I'd say it's possessing an effortlessly deep understanding of almost everything you encounter in English.
Effortlessly deep. That's the key phrase there, isn't it?
I think so. Effortlessly. You're not consciously translating in your head anymore. You're just processing, thinking directly in English at a very high level.
And that includes the really specialized high-density material.
Absolutely. We're talking abstract philosophy, maybe highly technical financial reports, specialized academic lectures.
Complex legal documents. Literary texts.
All of that. You understand not just the content, but the subtle intent, the tone, the underlying message, without real mental strain.
And the speaking command must be part of that, too.
Oh, definitely. Speaking at C2 isn't just fluent. Of course it's fluent, but it's more. It's natural. It's nuanced.
Flexible.
Very flexible, incredibly accurate, grammatically speaking, even with complex sentences. And it shows this keen sensitivity to subtle linguistic points.
Okay, keen sensitivity. What does that sound like in a real conversation? Give us an example.
It means you instinctively catch irony, or you genuinely appreciate sophisticated wordplay, maybe complex puns or humor that relies on language itself.
Things that might fly over the head of even a good C1 speaker sometime.
Potentially, yes. Or it means knowing exactly when and how to shift your register.
Oh, register control, that's huge.
Crucial. Moving smoothly from, say, a semi-formal chat with colleagues to delivering a highly formal academic presentation. You adjust your vocabulary, sentence structure, formality perfectly.
And it feels natural, not forced.
Exactly. The language feels like an organic extension of your thoughts, not like a tool you're consciously trying to manipulate. It's become intuitive.
Wow. Okay, so the core characteristics of someone operating as C2. it must include some serious processing power, right? Handling dense text, complex speech, no matter how fast or intricate.
Yes, definitely. Processing speed and depth are key. But also, critically, a C2 user can skillfully synthesize information.
Synthesize, you mean bringing things together.
Exactly. Taking information from diverse sources, maybe something you read, something you heard, perhaps even conflicting sources, and weaving them together. They don't just summarize each piece.
They integrate it.
Be integrated. That's the word.
Can you expand on that synthesis skill? Because that
Oh, sure.
ability, bringing together different types of sources, that sounds like exactly what's needed in high-level professional or academic work.
It absolutely is. Think about a real-world scenario. Maybe you're analyzing a complex new policy proposal.
Okay.
A C2 speaker doesn't just read the news article and the academic paper separately. They read both, understand the different angles, maybe the different
It
jargon.
might be theoretical, one empirical.
Precisely. They can pull out the core arguments from each, see where they align, where they conflict, maybe where one fills the gaps of the other.
And then what?
Then they reconstruct all that information. They build a coherent, nuanced analysis or presentation. They're not just repeating points.
They're creating something new from the sources.
Exactly. They use the sources to form their own insightful critique or perhaps a really strong, well-structured counter-argument, all articulated in their own sophisticated, high-level English.
So it's a very high bar. Now, you mentioned the difference from C1 often lies in the finer shades of meaning. This seems critical for listeners maybe hovering around C1.
It is the critical difference, I think.
Can you give us some really concrete linguistic examples of that separation? Where does C2 pull away?
Okay, well, C1 proficiency lets you convey complex ideas pretty accurately, right? You can get your point across effectively.
Yeah.
But C2 gives you absolute precision and total control over connotation, the subtle feeling or idea a word evokes.
Okay, like.
Like, a C1 user might describe something unexpected as interesting or maybe surprising, perfectly adequate.
Right.
A C2 user facing the same situation might pause and choose between arresting, provocative, disquieting, or perhaps perplexing.
Ah, depending on the exact nuance.
Exactly. Is it just intellectually engaging, arresting? Is it challenging accepted ideas, provocative? Does it make you slightly uneasy, disquieting? Or is it just plain confusing, perplexing?
The C2 user picks the word carrying the precise emotional and intellectual weight needed for that specific context.
That's it. They have that finer granularity of vocabulary, and they know exactly how to deploy it.
So, okay, putting it simply, C1 gets the main points, get the gist, even complex gist.
Yes, generally.
But C2 grasps the whole intricate web of meaning underneath, the emotional layers, the cultural subtext, the intellectual implications.
That's a really good way to phrase it. The whole intricate web. It's the difference between describing a complex situation adequately and describing it unassailably, with complete confidence in your choice of words.
And that sensitivity extends to register too, you said.
Absolutely. C2 communication isn't just accurate, it's deeply aware and totally appropriate for the highest context.
Can you give an example of that C1 versus C2 register difference?
Sure. Let's say you're reporting a positive outcome.
Hmm.
A C1 user might write, "I'm very happy about the result. Clear, correct."
Fine for an email to a colleague, maybe?
Maybe. But a C2 user writing a formal report might instinctively choose something like, "I feel inordinately gratified by the successful
How
outcome."
much more formal, precise?
Exactly. And they know that phrasing perfectly matches the formal register, the expectations of that specific document. That sensitivity to lexis, to collocation, to formality, that's really the final frontier that C2 conquers.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. The real-world value. Beyond the intellectual satisfaction, which is huge,
It is.
what's the clear, tangible benefit of putting in the immense effort to reach this peak? Why should someone aim for C2?
Well, it provides immense validation, a powerful credential for the most demanding environments.
Think high-level careers.
like international relations, diplomacy, advanced scientific research, where collaboration relies on perfect clarity, philosophical inquiry, senior roles in global corporations.
Places where miscommunication is really costly.
Hugely costly, financially or diplomatically. And in academia, if you're applying for a competitive international postgraduate program, especially at PhD level,
The C2 certificate speaks volumes.
it signals you're ready. Ready to engage with the most demanding academic debates, critique complex theories, produce original research, all using flawless, sophisticated English. It removes any doubt about your linguistic capacity.
So it essentially removes language as a barrier to your intellectual or professional potential.
Precisely. It offers immense personal growth, that intellectual freedom we talked about, and frankly, the confidence to walk into any room, engage with anyone on any topic, and do it with sophistication and authenticity.
It's proof of rigor, too, isn't it? Persistence.
Absolutely. It shows you have the discipline and commitment to achieve something incredibly difficult. You become a truly global communicator, able to operate effectively at the very highest levels.
Okay, now, for something that often puzzles people, we need to tackle this paradox almost.
Oh, yes. The native speaker question.
Exactly. You hear that some, even many, native English speakers actually find the C2 proficiency exam really tough. How is that possible? They speak English every single day.
It's a really critical point to understand, especially for C2 preparation. And the answer lies in what the C2 exam is actually testing.
It's not testing everyday chat, is it?
No, not the kind of conversational fluency that native speakers pick up naturally, intuitively from childhood. The exam assesses something different.
It is.
The ability to use language in a highly structured, incredibly precise, and very analytical way, often under significant time pressure.
Okay.
And it requires conscious knowledge of the language's mechanics, not just intuitive use.
So if a native speaker often relies on their intuition, their feel for the language,
Which works fine most of the time in daily life.
the exam demands something else. A high-level performance. A conscious, structured deployment of advanced language skills.
That's exactly right. Think about it. Many native speakers use complex grammar intuitively without thinking about the rule,
Sure.
but ask them to explain why a certain structure is correct, or to consistently avoid subtle errors, especially under the stress of an exam. That's different.
It might struggle.
They might. The test demands total coherence over long stretches of speech or writing. It demands the precise and crucially appropriate use of sophisticated vocabulary in a formal setting.
Right. Appropriateness is key. So native speakers might naturally use informal language.
Things like filler words, like, sort of used excessively,
Yeah.
or relying heavily on common phrasal verbs instead of more formal single-word verbs. Or maybe grammar shortcuts that are fine in conversation.
But we get penalized heavily in a formal C2 essay.
Absolutely. The C2 exam demands explicit control over register. A native speaker uses put off or take up constantly without thinking. The C2 exam requires you to demonstrate, and can use the formal equivalents postpone, defer, or commence when the context demands it, like in that formal essay or report.
It's testing that conscious choice.
Exactly. And it probes your understanding of those really fine distinctions in meaning.
Can you give us another example? Like the ones that often trip up native speakers who rely purely on usage, not explicit knowledge. You mentioned imply and infer before.
Yes, that's a classic. Or think about the difference between disinterested and uninterested.
Okay.
Many native speakers in casual chat might use them interchangeably. I'm uninterested in that argument, or I'm disinterested in that argument.
But they mean different things, technically.
Very different things. Disinterested means impartial, unbiased, of vital quality for a judge, a scientist, a journalist reporting facts.
Right.
Uninterested just means bored, lacking interest.
So the C2 exam might test if you can use disinterested correctly.
Precisely. Perhaps in a task where you're writing an academic review or summarizing opposing viewpoints fairly. Using disinterested correctly shows an exact command of that specific formal vocabulary. Native intuition often isn't precise enough for these high-stakes distinctions.
It sounds like C2 learners, through their focused study, often become better trained to spot these structural pitfalls or semantic nuances than native speakers are.
In the context of the exam, often yes, they have to be. C2 preparation involves meticulous training in analyzing complex grammar.
Drills, practice.
Lots of it. So while a native speaker might easily miss, say, a subject-verb agreement error when the subject is miles away from the verb, separated by a long, complex clause,
Which happens a lot in academic writing.
it does. A C2 learner has likely been drilled specifically on identifying and correcting that kind of complex syntax to ensure absolute accuracy.
So the exam also requires learned exam competencies.
Yes, skills that have to be learned systematically, regardless of your first language. Things like strict time management, sticking precisely to word counts, structuring answers exactly as required by the task, synthesizing arguments within very tight limits.
Skills you don't necessarily practice in daily life, native speaker or not.
Not usually, no. You have to learn how to play the game of the exam.
That makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
So the C2 exam, in a way, it kind of levels the playing field.
It really does.
It demands this universal standard of precise, conscious, high-level application of English mechanics and skills, moving beyond just intuitive fluency.
Exactly. And that's why specific, targeted preparation is absolutely indispensable for everyone aiming for C2, regardless of their background. Intuition alone won't get you there.
Okay, let's pull back the curtain a bit more on the exam itself then. You've painted a picture of this holistic assessment designed to ensure anyone who passes can truly function as an expert user.
That's the goal. It's a really rigorous assessment across all 4 key skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and, importantly, how they integrate.
It's not testing them in isolation.
No, the tasks often require you to combine skills. The overall objective is clear. Certify that you can operate confidently and effectively in pretty much any high-level English-speaking environment you might encounter.
Academic, professional, complex social situations.
All of the above. So we really need to break down the specific challenges you'll face in each part of the exam.
Let's do it. Starting with the reading component, often combined with use of English, right? What kind of texts are we talking about, and what's the core demand?
Right, the reading and use of English paper. The source material you'll encounter in the reading sections is highly sophisticated. It's often abstract, dense, and requires real intellectual engagement.
Give some examples.
Imagine reading complex excerpts from, say, 18th or 19th century literature, or dense passages from a current bioethics paper. Maybe an in-depth analysis of economic policy from a serious journal.
Okay, definitely not light reading.
Definitely not. And the demand, the questions they ask, go far beyond just identifying the main idea or pulling out specific facts. C1 tests that well. C2 goes deeper.
So you said earlier, it's moving beyond what is said to understanding how it's said.
Exactly. You have to demonstrate really deep interpretation. That means inferring implied meaning, understanding the writer's underlying philosophical assumptions, analyzing their tone.
Spotting subtle bias.
Absolutely. Identifying the author's stance even when it's not explicitly stated. And recognizing rhetorical strategies. How is the author trying to persuade you?
For instance.
For instance, you might need to pinpoint exactly where an author uses concession, acknowledging an opposing point before demolishing it with a rebuttal. Or identify how rhetorical questions are being used to steer the reader's thinking. It's highly analytical reading.
Okay, intense. Let's move to the writing component. What defines C2 mastery here? What are they looking for?
2 words: rigor and sophistication. You're expected to produce clear, coherent, and exceptionally well-structured written pieces.
On complex topics.
Often very complex, sometimes abstract topics. The PASC types reflect this. You might have to write a persuasive essay arguing a nuanced point, or a detailed analytical report aimed at an expert audience.
Or a review.
Yes, maybe a critical review of a technically complex book, a film with deep themes, or even a comparison of different academic arguments.
And that persuasive essay you mentioned, sophisticated argumentation, it's clearly not enough just to list your points.
Oh, not at all. At C2, they're looking for masterful argumentation. That means starting with a complex, refined thesis statement. It means building your argument logically, paragraph by paragraph, with perfect cohesion, seamless linking words and phrases.
And style.
Yes, stylistic flair is expected. But crucially, it also means incorporating things like counter-arguments and handling them effectively with strong rebuttals. It shows you've considered other
So
perspectives.
you need the language tools for that.
Absolutely. You need a broad, nuanced vocabulary. You need mastery of advanced grammatical structures, things like complex inversions for emphasis or cleft sentences. What matters most is to structure your points effectively.
The goal being.
The goal is to craft compelling, virtually error-free, intellectually strong prose that sounds genuinely authoritative and sophisticated.
Okay, now the listening component. This is often where accents, speed, and those implicit meanings really challenge candidates, right?
Definitely. The C2 listening test demands a truly critical ear. You're not just passively receiving information.
What kind of audio do they use?
It's incredibly diverse. You might hear rapid-fire academic lectures, nuanced radio discussions featuring multiple speakers, maybe experts debating a complex issue, intricate interviews, even complex everyday conversations, but with layers of meaning.
And delivered in various accents.
Yes, you'll encounter a range of standard international English accents spoken at natural speed, sometimes quite fast.
You mentioned the demand is to pick out implicit meaning, that ability to hear between the lines. How does the test actually assess that?
The questions are designed specifically for it. You're listening not just for the main ideas or specific details, though you need those too, but for the implicit stuff.
Like the speaker's attitude.
Exactly. Their attitude, their opinions, their emotions, even when not stated directly. For example, a speaker might say, "Oh, well, that's certainly one way of looking at it."
Implying doubt or disagreement.
Precisely. The slight hesitation, the stress on one, a critical C2 listener, catches that nuance instantly and understands the implied criticism or reservation. The test questions will specifically target your ability to pick up on those subtle clues, the shifts in intonation, the word choices that betray underlying feelings. It's very sophisticated listening comprehension.
Critical listening, as he said. Okay, and finally, the speaking component. You called it the dynamic challenge.
Right.
What are the examiners really looking for when you're face-to-face?
They're assessing a complete picture of your integrated speaking proficiency. It's not just one thing. The format itself is designed to test different aspects.
How does it usually run?
It typically moves through several stages, maybe some general conversation first to warm up. Then often a task involving discussing pictures or texts, comparing and contrasting perhaps. Then a collaborative task with the other candidate.
Where you have to interact, negotiate.
Exactly. Negotiation and interaction are key there. And finally, usually a longer individual turn, a more sophisticated talk on an abstract topic, followed by more discussion.
And throughout all that, what specific areas are they scoring?
Several key areas, assessed holistically but distinctly. First, fluency and coherence. Can you speak smoothly, naturally, without undue hesitation, and connect your ideas logically?
Okay.
Second, pronunciation. Is your speech clear, intelligible? Is your stress and intonation natural and effective in conveying meaning? It doesn't have to be a specific native accent, but it needs to be clear and expressive.
Makes sense.
Third, grammatical resource. Are you using a wide range of grammatical structures accurately? Can you handle complex sentences with minimal errors, even when speaking spontaneously?
Accuracy is key.
Very key. Fourth, lexical resource. Your vocabulary. Are you using a broad range of words and phrases appropriately? Is your vocabulary precise and nuanced? Can you paraphrase effectively?
And the fifth.
Fifth, interactive communication. This is crucial in the paired tasks. How well do you engage with the other candidate and the examiner? Can you initiate discussions, respond appropriately, sustain arguments, help negotiate towards an outcome? It's about dynamic, collaborative speaking.
It's really becoming crystal clear, isn't it? C2 isn't just about knowing a lot of English. It's about the precise application of that knowledge.
That's it, exactly.
Applying it to specific, often quite tricky question formats, usually under time pressure.
That really is the core philosophy of the CPE exam. It uses this diverse mix of task types, gap fills, multiple choice, transformations, essays, reports, discussions, each one carefully engineered.
To probe deeper.
Yes, to probe deep into your ability to apply your knowledge, to think analytically, to handle complex information quickly, and to synthesize ideas effectively, you need to be incredibly versatile to succeed.
Okay, let's focus in on some of those specific task types again. In the reading and use of English paper, how do those specialized tasks really test the nuanced vocabulary and advanced grammar we talked about?
This is where you see things like multiple choice close tasks, or open close, gap fill without options, or word formation or keyword transformations. They are designed to demand incredible precision.
Oh, so.
Well, for vocabulary, a multiple choice close might give you four words that are very similar in meaning, like, say, mitigate, alleviate, ameliorate, diminish.
And you need to know the precise collocation or context for the right one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to know you alleviate suffering, mitigate risks, ameliorate conditions, and diminish influence, perhaps. The wrong choice might be grammatically okay, but semantically wrong in that specific context. It tests deep lexical knowledge.
And for grammar, what kind of structures do they target?
They often target complex structures that signal formality, emphasis, or sophisticated relationships between ideas. Advanced inversions are a classic example.
Like starting a sentence with not only or rarely.
Precisely. You might get a keyword transformation task where you have to rewrite a sentence starting rarely. You need to know that requires inverting the auxiliary and subject. Rarely have I seen such a thing. Not rarely I have seen.
It's testing that structural control.
Yes. And complex conditional forms, mixed conditionals, hypothetical pasts, or the subjunctive mood. It is vital that he be present. These are everyday structures for many, but they show mastery of formal and nuanced grammar. It's about differentiating structures that subtly shift meaning or register.
Demanding real precision. Now let's circle back to the writing demands. You said masterful argumentation. How does someone actually structure an argument masterfully for a C2 essay?
Okay, structure is paramount. A C2 persuasive essay needs a clear, logical scaffold. You must state your refined, nuanced thesis statement very early on, usually in the introduction.
Setting the direction.
Exactly. Then, each body paragraph needs a clear topic sentence that directly supports or develops a specific aspect of that thesis. And the paragraphs must flow logically using sophisticated linking devices, not just firstly, secondly, but more nuanced connectors.
And you mentioned rhetorical devices.
Yes, effectively using rhetoric is key, not just for decoration, but to strengthen persuasion. This absolutely includes acknowledging opposing arguments using concession.
Showing you understand the other side.
Right. While it could be argued that X, or admittedly there is some merit to the view that Y, but crucially, this must be followed immediately by a strong rebuttal.
Okay.
However, this perspective overlooks the crucial factor of Z.
Oh.
And throughout the entire piece, you must maintain that consistent, sophisticated, appropriately formal academic tone. Every sentence needs to feel polished, grammatically robust, and contribute meaningfully to the overall argument.
It's a high standard for writing under pressure. What about the listening tasks? Again, hearing between the lines. Are there specific accents or speeds candidates should particularly focus on mastering? Or is it more about the complexity?
The exam aims for fairness, so it uses a range of standard international English accents, typically varieties of British, American, Australian, maybe others, but usually clearly spoken, even if at a natural, sometimes fast pace. The real challenge isn't usually a difficult accent per se.
It's the content.
It's the density and complexity of the content and the way things are said. As we discussed, the tasks often require you to infer meaning, subtext, attitude.
So you might hear someone speaking perfectly standard English, but you need to deduce their disapproval.
Exactly. They might use very polite language, but their choice of words, perhaps some carefully controlled intonation, or the use of modal verbs suggesting doubt, that might be feasible, I suppose, signals their true stance on an abstract or academic topic.
So training involves listening for those subtle cues.
Absolutely. Active listening practice should focus on identifying hesitation markers, qualifying words, tone shifts, rhetorical questions used in speech, all the subtle ways speakers convey attitude beyond a literal meaning.
Okay, and finally, let's revisit that interactive speaking component. Beyond individual fluency, what does engaging and extended sophisticated discussion really mean in the exam context?
It means going beyond just answering the examiner's questions clearly. It means actively participating in a high-level conversation.
How?
By expressing your own clear opinions, supporting them with reasons or examples, by speculating thoughtfully about hypothetical situations or future possibilities, using nuanced modal verbs like might, could, may well.
Showing linguistic flexibility.
Yes, and responding naturally and spontaneously to what the examiner or the other candidate says, agreeing, disagreeing politely but firmly, maybe building on their points or offering a counterargument.
So negotiating meaning is part of it.
Definitely.
Mm.
Asking for clarification if needed, clarifying your own points, working with the other candidate in the collaborative task to explore ideas and perhaps reach some kind of conclusion or reasoned disagreement. You need to show you can sustain and drive forward a complex discussion.
Wow. Okay, that is a truly comprehensive breakdown of the challenge. It's intense. So knowing all these demands, how can someone listening possibly prepare effectively? What's the ultimate C2 preparation strategy? What are the actionable steps?
Right, this is crucial. Preparing for C2 is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. It requires sustained effort, real mental stamina, and a very dedicated strategic approach. You can't just cram for this.
So what's the overall philosophy?
The most effective overarching strategy is deep immersion. You have to consciously weave high-level English into the fabric of your daily intellectual life.
Making it organic.
Exactly, so it starts to feel natural, intuitive. This builds the linguistic resilience you need to perform effortlessly under pressure.
And that goal you mentioned earlier, truly thinking in English. How do we make that practical, actionable for someone preparing?
It requires conscious effort initially. You have to deliberately stop yourself from translating from your native language in your head.
Catch yourself doing it.
Yes. When you encounter a complex problem at work or in your studies, try to analyze it directly in English. When you're formulating your thoughts for the day, planning something, try to do it internally, silently, in English.
It sounds like hard work at first.
It is, initially. But it's about rewiring your brain. Removing that extra translation step is what frees up the mental bandwidth needed for spontaneous, sophisticated communication. It allows you to access that high-level vocabulary and complex grammar much more quickly.
Okay, let's get really specific. Can you give our listeners, say, 4 key targeted strategies they can start applying right away?
Absolutely. Let's make this really actionable. First, challenging content immersion. This is non-negotiable. You must purposefully consume English content that genuinely pushes your limits.
So stop reading the simplified news. Stop listening to easy podcasts.
Pretty much, yes. Or at least make sure a significant portion of your intake is much harder. Seek out complex, analytical articles from serious publications like The Economist, The New Yorker, academic journals in your field.
And for listening.
Watch complex documentaries, perhaps university lectures available online, specialist podcasts on intricate topics ideally. Try watching or listening without subtitles first to really train your ear.
Push beyond the comfort zone constantly.
Constantly. That's how you get comfortable with complex syntax and specialized jargon. Second, dedicated daily active practice.
Active meaning speaking and writing.
Yes. Set aside a non-negotiable block of time every single day, even if it's just 30 minutes, though an hour is better for active production, not passive reading or listening.
Okay, what kind of active practice?
For speaking fluency and structure, literally practice talking to yourself. Stand in front of a mirror and structure a formal argument on a complex topic aloud. Focus on your pacing, your stress, your intonation.
Like a rehearsal.
Exactly. Or internally debate complex ethical or philosophical issues while you're commuting or doing chores. This builds the mental muscle memory for structuring complex thought spontaneously in English.
Okay, 2 down. What's third?
Third, rigorous listening refinement. Go beyond just listening for gist. Listen actively to challenging audio, those academic talks, complex news analyses, maybe radio plays with diverse accents.
And do what while listening?
Practice transcribing short, difficult segments. Pause the audio, write down exactly what you heard, especially complex sentences or unfamiliar vocabulary, then check against a transcript if possible.
To pinpoint difficulties.
Yes. And then try repeating those complex sentences out loud, mimicking the speaker's intonation, rhythm, and stress patterns. This really helps internalize the sound and structure of sophisticated spoken English.
Okay, and the fourth strategy.
Fourth, extreme rigor in writing. You simply have to write regularly at C2 level, set yourself a schedule on maybe one full C2 style essay or report per week.
And just writing isn't enough, is it?
No. The key is what you do after writing. Focus intensely on self-correction and improvement. Analyze your own work ruthlessly. Are your arguments logical? Is the cohesion perfect? Is the tone consistently formal and sophisticated?
Checking for sentence variety. Grammar errors.
All of it. Check every single linking word. Hunt down repetitive sentence structures. Ensure your vocabulary is precise and varied. Use grammar references to double-check complex structures. Getting feedback from a qualified tutor is ideal, but rigorous self-critique is essential regardless. The goal is error-free, intellectually strong prose.
4 really solid strategies there. Now, when someone is studying, perhaps on their own, using the right materials is absolutely critical. How should they prioritize resources to get the most bang for their buck?
This is vital. You could waste a lot of time with the wrong materials. The absolute #1 top priority must be,
Let me guess. Official practice papers.
you got it, using official C2 level practice papers and authentic sample tests from the exam provider, like Cambridge English for the CPE. These are gold
Why are these so important?
because they provide the most accurate simulation of the actual exam format, the question types, the style of the texts and audio, and the level of sophistication required. There's no substitute.
And how should you use them?
Under timed conditions. Treat every practice test like the real thing. This builds familiarity, helps you perfect your time management, and gets you used to the pressure.
Okay, official papers first. What kind of targeted studies should supplement those papers?
You definitely need focused, targeted practice, especially in those tricky areas of grammar and vocabulary.
So grammar drills.
Yes, but not just any grammar drills. You need advanced grammar exercises, specifically targeting the complex structures frequently tested at C2. Things like all the nuances of conditional sentences, the subjunctive mood, perfect and continuous aspect subtleties, advanced passive constructions, and especially those inversions we talked about.
Finding resources that focus specifically on C2 grammar challenges.
Exactly. And the same goes for vocabulary. It needs to be continuous, strategic vocabulary expansion.
What makes it strategic at this level?
It's not just about learning more words. It's about focusing on advanced idioms, nuanced phrasal verbs, especially less common ones, and spiralized academic or formal terminology relevant to typical C2 topics, like science, society, culture, ethics.
And learning them in context.
Absolutely crucial. Don't just memorize lists. Learn words in context. Pay close attention to collocation, which words naturally go together. Remember our example: ameliorate, alleviate, mitigate. You need to learn not just the definition, but precisely how each one is used, what nouns they typically combine with. That precision is C2.
That focus differentiation is so important. And you mentioned error analysis earlier as being essential. Can you emphasize that again?
Yes, this might be the single most important learning tool. Embrace error analysis and correction. After every single practice session, whether it's a use of English task, a listening test, or a full essay you've written, you must meticulously review your errors.
Don't just check the answers and move on.
No, you need to understand why you made the mistake. Was it a misunderstanding of vocabulary? A gap in your grammar knowledge? A misinterpretation of the question? A slip under pressure?
Dig into the root cause.
Exactly. Identify the underlying rule or concept you need to reinforce. Look it up. Make notes. Then consciously try to apply that learning correctly in your next practice session. This critical self-reflection loop is how you stop making the same mistakes and truly internalize the knowledge, turning it into lasting, intuitive control.
So when listeners are looking for resources, books, websites, courses, what should be their guiding principle?
Look for materials explicitly aligned with the official C2 exam standards. Start with resources published or recommended by the official exam board, like Cambridge English.
They often have specific books for CPE prep.
They do. Then look for reputable publishers known for high-level ELT materials, specifically textbooks or workbooks labeled C2 or Proficiency. Be wary of generic advanced English materials, as they might not have the specific focus and rigor needed for the CPE.
So combining official papers with targeted C2 level grammar and vocabulary resources and relentless error analysis.
That's the winning combination. It requires discipline, but it's the most effective path to building that robust C2 level competence across the board. So yeah, we've really taken quite an exhaustive deep dive today, haven't we, into that path to C2 success.
We certainly have.
And I think the key takeaways are it needs that holistic, strategic approach. You need a very clear understanding of what C2 level actually demands, meticulous use of the right study techniques, like we just discussed, and that continuous, rigorous development across reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
It's that integrated strategy that really lays the foundation for reaching that summit.
Exactly.
And perhaps a final thought for you, the listener, the ambitious learner out there aiming for this. That C2 certificate, it really is so much more than just a piece of paper hanging on the wall.
Oh, definitely.
It's tangible proof, isn't it? Proof of your ability to grapple with complex ideas, to synthesize vast amounts of information, to engage deeply and meaningfully with the world in English with a level of mastery that genuinely crosses intellectual, professional, and cultural borders.
It's a profound achievement.
So just take a moment and think, how could that level of linguistic command, that freedom to engage with any subject, any person at the highest level, without language being a barrier, how could that truly reshape your personal life, your intellectual world, maybe your entire professional future? The possibilities are.
Well, they're pretty profound when you think about it.
They truly are. So our message is, embrace that C2 journey. Go for it with confidence. Know that with focused effort, with persistence, and by using the kind of strategic approach we've talked about today, this peak of English proficiency, it is within your grasp.
Absolutely. We really hope this deep dive has given you some powerful, actionable insights today. Keep digging, keep pushing.